Do you know why just a tiny 1% of people in the world hold over 90% of the world's wealth? The secret isn't luck, it's mindset. It's about how they look at money and how they use it. What seems like fortune from the outside is actually a system of principles built and refined over hundreds of years. And among all nations, when it comes to financial wisdom, the Jewish people stand at the very top. Out of exile, hardship, and suffering, they forged a treasury of knowledge the whole world respects. These principles turned small, scattered communities into financial masters, world-class thinkers, and legendary entrepreneurs. If you're listening right now, take this as your chance to step into that world. Together, we're going to walk through lessons that don't just help you build wealth, but also transform the way you see money, time, and life itself. But before we dive in, let me give you a quick invitation. If you truly care about growing yourself and building a mindset for lasting success, make sure to follow Rich Mind Hack. Here, you'll always find seeds of wisdom that can literally change your life. It's no coincidence that so many people, once they mastered these principles, escaped the stress of money problems, gained freedom, and built wealth for generations to come. So what makes the difference? What allows such a small nation to produce so many billionaires, great thinkers, and wealthy families? The answer lies in the 17 golden principles I'm about to share with you. Some of them you may have heard before, some may surprise you, and some may challenge the way you've been living until now. Listen closely, because sometimes one single idea at the right moment can change the entire course of your life. All right, let's begin. Part 1. The principle. Know the difference between need and want. In everyday life, how many times have you stood in front of something and asked yourself, do I really need this? Or do I just want it? That thin line, the difference between need and want, can decide whether you become someone who controls money or someone who's always stressed about not having enough. From a young age, Jewish kids are taught this lesson. They understand that wants are short-lived, emotional impulses, while needs are tied to survival, long-term goals, and true value. When you confuse the two, you end up spending money to satisfy an instant urge instead of building a secure future. Picture this. A Jewish boy goes to the market with his parents. He sees a shiny toy and begs for it. The father doesn't rush to buy it. Instead, he asks, do you really need this to live and learn? Or do you just want it because it looks nice? That simple question becomes a lifelong lesson. It teaches discipline, and it trains young minds to treat money with respect. While many people think wealth comes only from making more money, Jewish wisdom says wealth begins with how you spend it. If you can't control your spending, money will always end up controlling your emotions. And once emotions take over, logic is gone. Think about yourself. How many times have you opened your wallet and spent money on something that gave you a little joy for a few hours, maybe a few days, but left your account emptier? How many times have you regretted a quick purchase that could have been invested, used to learn a new skill, or save for your family's security? There's a Jewish saying, don't spend money you don't have on things you don't need to impress people you don't really care about. Behind those words is a deep philosophy. If you live chasing wants, you'll always feel poor. So how do you apply this principle? It's simple. Before every purchase, ask yourself, if I don't buy this, will I lose my ability to survive, learn, or work better? If the answer is no, then it's a want, not a need. People who practice this discipline eventually realize money doesn't just disappear. It flows to those who control themselves better. That's why, in Jewish culture, even families with modest incomes can save and invest, while others making double or triple end up with nothing. Remember, true wealth doesn't start when you make more money. It starts when you clearly know the difference between need and want. Master this principle, and you've laid the first foundation for your own financial freedom. Part 2. The principle. Never stop learning and upgrading your mindset. In Jewish culture, one of the most valuable things parents leave to their children isn't money or land, it's knowledge. There's a saying, wealth can be lost, but no one can ever take away your knowledge and mindset. That's why, no matter how the world changes, markets crash, or fortunes disappear, they still hold the strongest weapon of all, their brain, and the ability to keep learning. Imagine an old Jewish man in his 70s, still reading every night about finance and economic history. Someone once asked him, "At your age, why are you still studying?" He smiled and said, "I don't study to make money. I study to keep my mind as my greatest asset." Simple words, but they capture the spirit of lifelong learning. The Jewish understand this. Everything outside of you can change. Land can be taken, money can lose value, stocks can crash overnight. But the skills you build, the mindset you shape, and the knowledge you collect, nobody can ever steal those. That's why they invest in themselves first, treating their own mind as the most important startup. Think about it. If you learn to write, you can create content, teach, even publish books. If you study personal finance, you can manage money better, avoid debt, and build capital for investments. If you pick up a new language, you unlock more connections, income sources, and career opportunities. It doesn't have to be complicated. Sometimes just filling the gaps in what you don't know is enough to put you a step ahead of your past self. In the Jewish community, there's a common habit. They set aside a fixed part of their income each month to reinvest in themselves. They call it a living assets fund. From that money, they buy books, take courses, attend events with smarter people, or even get tools that help them work more efficiently. For them, that's not spending, it's investing. Think about it. The return on a book, a skill, or a course can last a lifetime. Compare that to a fancy dinner or an expensive gadget that gives you only a moment of happiness. The ROI of investing in yourself is unlimited. It never gets taxed, and it never loses value. That's why Jewish people don't wait until they have extra money or free time to learn. They know if you don't upgrade yourself today, you'll fall behind tomorrow. The world changes by the hour, and only those who keep learning can stand strong. So what's your action step? Set aside at least 10% of your income to reinvest in yourself. Whether it's a book, an online course, or a coffee with someone inspiring, treat it as non-negotiable. Don't think of it as spending. Think of it as raising your own market value. The Jewish hold a powerful belief. You are the most profitable long-term asset you will ever own. If you grow, your finances will grow. If you stop, your finances stop too. That's why they treat themselves as investment project number one, and they invest in that project every single day. Part 3, the principle, building community and trusted relationships, the power of togetherness in times of crisis. If you pay close attention, you'll notice this. Wherever Jewish people go in the world, they always form a community. Even with just a few dozen families, they'll set up groups, synagogues, and gatherings. Why? Because they live by a simple truth. An individual may go fast, but only a community can go far and stay strong. History shows this clearly. The Jewish people went through endless trials, wars, exile, even being wiped off the map for thousands of years. If they had relied only on individuals, they wouldn't have survived. What carried them through was community spirit, deep bonds, and trust in each other. That's how they rebuilt from nothing again and again. Picture this: a Jewish immigrant arriving in America in the early 1900s with nothing but an old suitcase. The moment he enters a Jewish neighborhood, the community steps in. He finds temporary housing, a job lead, guidance on how to adapt. And when he gets on his feet, he helps the next newcomer. Over time, the whole community grows stronger, and each individual rises with it. Even today, that same power of community is alive. Many Jewish businesses weren't built by one genius alone, but by networks of friends, relatives, and partners working together. The foundation is trust. When one struggles, the others don't walk away. They see it as a shared responsibility. Look around. In many countries, Jewish communities hold key positions in finance and business. That didn't come from luck. It came from a long-term strategy. Build trust, build connections, lift each other up. So what's the lesson for you? Stop trying to carry every burden alone. Start building trusted relationships. It could be like-minded friends, co-workers who support you, or a small group of people who give you honest advice. When crisis hits, these bonds become your safety net, the thing that keeps you standing. But here's the key. Building relationships isn't about using people or calculating what you'll gain. Jewish wisdom teaches, if you want trust, you must first give trust. They help others without hesitation because they know in the long run, when the community grows strong, every individual grows too. If you start today, investing in real, honest, lasting relationships, you'll build an invisible asset more valuable than any number in your bank account. Money can vanish, but the trust, support, and strength of a true community, that stays with you forever. Part 4, Principle. Focus on creating value, not just chasing profit. True value always brings money with it. There's a core philosophy in the Jewish way of building wealth. Money isn't the goal, it's the result. In other words, money shows up naturally as a reward when you create real value for others. If you're only chasing profit, sure, you might make money for a while, but it won't last. But if you focus on creating value, money will come on its own, and it'll stay with you longer. Take Mayer Amschel Rothschild, founder of the famous Rothschild banking family. When he started, he didn't have much capital, but he understood one powerful principle. Before you take something from the market, give it something it truly needs. He began by collecting and trading rare coins, offering knowledge, transparency, and genuine service to his clients. That trust he built opened doors for him to step into banking. People chose him not because he was the cheapest or promised the highest returns, but because he provided real value, safety, and credibility in every deal. There's an old Jewish saying, if you help someone make money, you'll make even more. The hidden truth is this. When you focus on solving problems for others, you don't just earn a paycheck. You earn opportunities to grow, expand, and go further. Look at businesses that have lasted for generations. Their secret isn't starting with massive capital or chasing short-term profits. The common thread is a clear mission: serve customers, provide real solutions, improve lives. Profit was just the byproduct, and because it was a byproduct, it became sustainable. Meanwhile, businesses or individuals obsessed with fast money, selling low-quality products, cutting corners, or cheating in deals may get rich for a short while, but eventually they collapse. Why? Because only real value can stand the test of time. So what can we learn from this? If you're an entrepreneur, ask yourself, what real problem does my product or service solve for customers? If you're an employee, ask yourself, what value am I adding to my company, my team, or my community? When you grow your personal value, you'll never have to worry about money. It has no choice but to follow you. A Jewish thinker once said, don't ask how much this job pays me. Ask how much value this job lets me create. The more value you create, the harder it is to replace you, and the harder it is to get rid of you. In today's fast-changing world, skills and knowledge can become outdated, but the ability to create value will always secure your future. The Jewish view on value is like planting a tree. If you only stare at the fruit, you'll get impatient and give up. But if you focus on the soil, the roots, the water, and the sunlight, sooner or later, the tree will bear fruit. Money is that fruit. It doesn't come from staring at it. It comes from nurturing value day after day. Remember this. Value is the water, profit is just the shade. Value is the root, profit is just the fruit. Once you commit to building value, you'll never have to worry about being broke. Part 5, Principle. Diversify your income. Never rely on just one stream of money. All through history, the Jewish people lived in fragile situations. A change of government, a sudden war, or a new law could wipe out everything they had overnight. Because of this, they built one survival rule into their mindset: never depend on just one source of income. Think about it. If all your income comes from one job, one position, or one single source, you're hanging your entire life on a thin thread. All it takes is one event: your company downsizes, the market shifts, or your health fails, and the money stops. And when money stops, financial pressure hits hard. The Jewish community understood this long ago, so they always looked for multiple streams of income. A Jewish merchant didn't just trade goods. He also lent money, invested in land, and moved into finance. A Jewish scholar didn't just teach. He also wrote books, consulted, and did research. Each news stream built another layer of financial immunity. So even if one collapsed, the others kept flowing. And the same principle applies today. Look at people who've built lasting success. You'll notice they never rely on just one paycheck. A skilled doctor might work at a hospital, run a private clinic, and teach. A tech engineer might have a full-time job, freelance projects, and investments in stocks or real estate. A content creator might earn from ads, sell digital products, and build a personal brand that opens new doors. The key isn't having 10 income streams overnight. It's planting the seeds now. A new skill could become your second stream. A small investment could grow into your third. Stick with it, and after a few years, you'll have a whole web of income sources. If one dries up, the others keep you alive. There's a Jewish saying, never put all your eggs in one basket. Simple image, but spot on. If that basket falls, you lose it all. But spread your eggs across many baskets, and you gain safety, and more importantly, freedom. Freedom from being tied to just one job, one boss, or one unpredictable situation. So here's the lesson. Take a hard look at your life right now. How many income streams do you have? If the answer is just one, it's time to start diversifying. Don't wait until a crisis forces you to scramble. Diversification isn't a luxury. It's survival in today's unpredictable world. Remember, income streams are like rivers. One river might dry up, but if you've got many flowing, your financial ocean will never run out. Part 6, Principle. Manage risk wisely. Always prepare for the worst, but expect the best. There's an old Jewish proverb. He who doesn't prepare for storms will be swept away even by a light rain. Throughout history, the Jewish people have faced storms, being expelled from their lands, banned from business, even genocide. That's why, deep in their culture, they learned to face risk head-on. Not with fear, but with preparation. Unlike many who dream only of best-case scenarios, Jews often start planning with one tough question. If everything collapses, what will I still have left? That's not pessimism, it's realism. When you've already imagined the worst case, you know how to protect yourself, reduce the damage, and rise again. For example, in business, they rarely put all their capital into one deal, no matter how promising it looks. They always keep a reserve, so even if they lose, they can rebuild. In investing, they never go all in because they know markets can turn on a dime. In everyday life, they keep emergency funds, cut luxuries when needed, and plan for setbacks before they happen. Here's the twist. Even while preparing for the worst, they still believe in the best. That balance between realism and hope is their strength. Preparation gives them confidence. With confidence, they can take risks wisely, move forward boldly, and grow even in hard times. Picture this. A ship sails out without life jackets, no compass, no backup food. One gust of wind and it's chaos. But a well-prepared ship? Even in a storm, the crew survives, and sometimes they even learn how to use the wind to go faster. That's exactly how Jewish people navigate business and life. So what's the lesson for you? Always think on two levels. Protection. Plan for the worst-case scenario. Growth. Aim for the best outcome. If you run a business, keep emergency funds and backup strategies for market changes. If you work a job, keep learning skills and building connections so you're never left helpless if you lose it. If you invest, settle for steady, safe returns instead of gambling it all. The Jewish mindset is clear. Risk can't be eliminated, but it can be managed. And only those who manage risk wisely live long enough to enjoy the rewards of their dreams. Never forget, hope is the light that guides you, but preparation is the anchor that keeps you from sinking in the dark. Part 7, Principle. Make your money work for you. Turn your dollars into workers, not dead paper. The Jewish people see money differently. To them, money isn't just something to spend, it's a silent worker. One Jewish man once said, "My money has to work, even while I sleep. If it doesn't, it's just useless paper." That's why in their financial mindset, letting money sit idle in a safe or a bank account is wasteful. Money is like a seed. Keep it locked in a jar, it stays a seed. plant it, care for it, give it time, and it grows into a tree bearing fruit year after year. For centuries, Jews lived by this principle. They didn't just hold gold and silver. They put to work. They lent it out, invested in trade, bought and sold goods, later moved into banking, stocks, and real estate. They didn't just have money. They had assets that produced money. And here's the key. They didn't chase quick wins. They focused on steady, safe, calculated growth. They knew investing wasn't gambling. It was a game of discipline and vision. The patient and the wise always win. Even today, this principle holds true. If you only work for a paycheck and let money sit still, you'll stay trapped in the cycle. Earn, spend, broke, earn again. But if you invest a piece of your income, you create a second stream where money works for you instead of you always working for money. For example, a Jewish saver wouldn't just keep cash in the bank. They might split it up, some into real estate for rental income, some into stocks for dividends and growth, some into a business venture, and some into education, because knowledge is the highest return investment. Most importantly, they pass this mindset to their kids. Even a child with allowance money is taught. Spend some, save some, and invest some to grow. That's how make money work for you becomes a lifelong habit. The lesson? Shift your perspective. Don't see money only as a way to satisfy short-term desires. See it as seeds, or better yet, as financial workers. Each dollar can become an employee if you put it in the right place. And once you've got hundreds or thousands of these employees working 24/7, you'll reach financial freedom, where money takes care of you, not the other way around. Always remember, money only has real value when it produces more money. If it sits still, inflation eats it away. The Jewish community has known this for centuries, and that's why they've always been one step ahead in finance. Part 8. Principle. Live with discipline and consistency. Stability is the foundation of freedom. Here's a truth most people don't like to face. Discipline is boring and impulse is exciting. Discipline means skipping the party to read, saving money instead of splurging, hitting the gym even when it's raining. But that boring consistency, it's the foundation of long-term freedom. The Jewish community knows, without discipline, every other principle collapses. You can know all about saving, investing, and diversifying, but if you're not disciplined enough to do it consistently, it stays just knowledge. That's why they teach their kids. The hard part isn't knowing what to do, it's doing the right thing long enough consistently. In finance, discipline shows up in saving and investing. Every month, no matter how big or small the income, they put aside a fixed amount to invest. No excuses like, I spent too much this month, I'll save extra next time. For them, rules are rules. And consistency is what builds wealth. Discipline also means not getting swept away by emotions. When others panic sell, they stick to the plan. When crowds rush into get-rich-quick schemes, they stay patient. That mental stability keeps them standing while others get washed away. There's a story often told in Jewish circles. A man, for 40 straight years, woke up at 6 a.m. every morning, read for half an hour, then went to work. He kept this habit even after becoming a millionaire. When asked why, he smiled. The greatest freedom is to master yourself. If I let myself slip, I'd lose everything. The lesson is powerful. True freedom isn't doing whatever you want. It's having the control to stick to your principles. People without discipline think they're free, but really, they're slaves to impulses, moods, and circumstances. Only disciplined people truly have the power to choose. In your life, discipline can start small. Wake up 30 minutes earlier to read. Commit to investing 10% of your income monthly. Track your expenses daily. Do these little actions consistently. And over time, your finances grow stronger, your mind gets calmer, and your future becomes clearer. The Jewish community doesn't chase instant perfection. They build stability step by step, day by day. They believe wealth isn't about explosive moments, but about steady accumulation through disciplined habits. That stability is the rock on which true freedom is built. And discipline isn't just about money. It's about mindset, health, relationships, When you create a clear system of principles and live by them consistently, you become unshakable in a constantly changing world. That's the power that's helped the Jewish people survive and thrive for thousands of years. Part 9. Principle. Believe in yourself and your life philosophy. No one can get rich for you. Only you are responsible for your life. One of the core beliefs in Jewish philosophy is this: your life, your success, or your failure is yours alone. No government, no family member, no stroke of luck can take that responsibility away from you. Jewish parents teach their kids early: if you want to go far, learn to trust yourself, because that's the foundation of true freedom. Believing in yourself doesn't mean blind arrogance. It's the quiet confidence that says, I can learn, I can change, I can start over. From childhood, Jewish kids are taught, you don't get to surrender to fate. You might be born poor, but you don't have to die poor if you're willing to take responsibility. And that responsibility begins the moment you stop blaming and start acting. History proves this mindset works. There were times when Jewish communities were expelled from their homes, stripped of property, even banned from certain professions. They had to leave with almost nothing. But they never lost the one thing no one could take away: their philosophy of life, their discipline, and their belief that they'd rise again. That mindset is what turned them, in just a few generations, from exiles into some of the world's most powerful financial leaders. Picture it: a family forced to leave their homeland with barely any belongings. But what they carried in their minds, knowledge, habits, a philosophy of wealth, was priceless. That's what allowed them to rebuild and succeed again and again. It's living proof that trusting yourself and your philosophy is far stronger than waiting for someone else to save you. The truth is, most people fail not because they lack opportunity, but because they don't believe they deserve more or can do more. They hand their lives over to luck, hoping someone will rescue them. Jewish people don't think that way. They know, if you don't get up, no one will lift you. If you don't learn how to build wealth, no one will just hand you money forever. If you don't take responsibility, you'll always stay a victim. The deep lesson is this: your philosophy shapes your path. The Jewish mindset is take responsibility instead of blame circumstances. They choose to believe that every problem has a solution, if you're patient enough to find it. From that belief comes motivation, discipline, and persistence. Think about it. If you don't believe in yourself, you won't invest, you won't try new paths, you won't make changes. Belief is always the starting line. Those who don't believe stop at ideas. Those who believe take action. And only action creates results. In the end, self-belief leads to real freedom. When you know you can control your own life, you stop depending on others, stop living in fear, stop waiting for permission. You become the creator of your destiny, not a victim of it. The Jewish message is clear: we don't choose where we're born, but we can choose how we live. And that choice begins with absolute belief in yourself and in the philosophy you live by. Because at the end of the day, no one can get rich for you, and no one else is responsible for your life but you. Part 10. Principle. Always look for opportunity in adversity. Turn struggles into stepping stones. Here's a truth most people don't want to hear: adversity is unavoidable. You can prepare carefully, plan every detail, and storms will still come. The real question isn't whether you can escape hardship, it's how you face it. The Jewish people have lived for thousands of years under persecution, exile, and even systematic destruction. Yet they were never defeated. Their secret? In adversity, they look for opportunity. In business, when financial crises strike, the crowd panics, flees, and complains. But the Jewish mindset is calmer. They see crisis as a chance to acquire assets at a discount, to rebuild from the ground up. One Jewish family once said, when markets collapse, people see ruin. We see freshly plowed soil, ready for planting. Adversity is also a test of character. If you lose your job, instead of blaming life, you can see it as a chance to learn new skills, start a business, or pivot into a better career. If a business deal fails, instead of treating it as the end, you can see it as tuition for growth. The Jewish saying goes, mistakes aren't expensive school, but the only one that truly teaches you how to build wealth. Look back at history. Jewish communities were expelled from lands, stripped of property, and left with nothing. But in that very hardship, they learned to travel light, to invest in knowledge and finance instead of land. That shift transformed them into global leaders in banking and commerce. Without adversity, they might never have gained their unique position today. It's the same in personal life. A failure can teach you patience. A family crisis can help you appreciate lasting values. A loss can mark the beginning of rediscovering yourself. Jews never treat adversity as a period. They treat it as a comma, a pause before the next chapter begins. The lesson here: shift your perspective. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What can I learn from this? What opportunities are hidden here?" That single shift opens new doors. The ones who fail forever are those who only see the wall. The ones who succeed are those who find the door in the wall. And remember, opportunities and adversity don't show up on their own. You have to actively search for them. It requires clarity, self-belief, and a strong life philosophy. With that mindset, every setback becomes a step up, not a breakdown. The Jewish belief is simple. Adversity is a test to see who deserves to move forward. If you pass, you grow stronger. If you collapse, you stay stuck. So never treat adversity as the enemy. It's the toughest teacher, but the one that produces the strongest winners. Part 11, Principle. Know when to stop. Greed destroys, protection preserves. One of history's most expensive lessons is this. Many great empires didn't collapse because of enemies outside, but because of unchecked greed from within. The same is true in finance and in life. Many people lose everything simply because they didn't know when to stop. The Jewish philosophy is very clear. Wealth isn't about squeezing every drop from every opportunity. It's about protecting what you built once you've reached a safe level. They often say, a wise man isn't the one who finds a gold mine, but the one who knows when to put down his shovel before greed buries him alive. In business, countless people rise from nothing, only to go bankrupt because they expand recklessly. When profits go up, they borrow more, chase faster growth, and forget the truth. The faster you go, the bigger the risk. Jews don't play that game. They move slowly, steadily, and always keep a portion of their wealth safe. When they invest, it's only with money they can afford to lose, never with the capital that ensures survival. The same lesson applies in the stock market and financial investing. The inexperienced are often trapped by greed. Prices rise, and they want more. Profits come, and they want double or triple. But all it takes is one downturn, and it all vanishes. Jews take a different approach. Once they've reached their target, they cash out, lock in profits, and protect their position. They know, if you miss one opportunity, there will always be another. But if you lose everything, opportunities won't matter anymore. In everyday life, knowing when to stop is also about controlling desires. How many lives collapse because of chasing luxury beyond their means, buying things they don't need just to impress others? Jews don't fall into that trap. They choose moderation, preserving wealth for the next generation rather than burning it on showy consumption. There's a well-known story about a Jewish merchant who, after years of success, was asked why he didn't open branches all over Europe. He simply smiled and said, "I don't need the whole world. I just need my family to be well and my community to be strong. The rest, I leave for others to chase." That is the wisdom of someone who knows that protecting is more important than expanding at any cost. The deeper lesson is this: wisdom isn't always about pushing forward. Sometimes, the greatest wisdom is knowing when to stop. Like a river, if it flows too fast without pause, it floods and destroys. But if it bends, slows down, and deposits rich soil along the way, it nurtures life. In your financial journey, always ask yourself, what is enough? When should I stop to protect what I have? If you can answer that, you won't be swept away by endless greed. And that restraint is what allows you to sustain wealth for the long run, instead of just tasting it for a fleeting moment. The Jewish belief is simple. Wealth built on wisdom and restraint can last for generations. Wealth built on greed will eventually collapse. Part 12. Principle. See time as an asset. Invest wisely in both money and life hours. If money can be lost and earned back, time is the one asset that never returns. The Jewish people understand this profoundly. The most valuable wealth of a human being is not gold, not land, but time itself. That's why they teach their children from a young age to view time as a form of capital, something to be invested wisely. There's a famous saying in the Jewish community: the poor waste time as if it were infinite. The rich treat every minute as if it were their last coin of gold. This mindset keeps them from letting hours slip away meaninglessly. If there's a gap of time, they use it to learn a new skill, read another page, or build another relationship. But using time wisely doesn't mean working non-stop without rest. Jews don't chase blind busyness. Instead, they allocate time with precision. When working, they focus with absolute intensity. When resting, they enjoy it fully. Time for family, for community, for knowledge. All are seen as long-term investments that yield the highest returns. In business and finance, Jews deeply respect the time value of money. They know that a single dollar invested today can multiply into many over time. That's why they don't let money sit idle. And just as importantly, they don't let time slip away unused. One wasted hour is a permanent loss that no wealth can buy back. Here's a real-life example. Many people spend hours scrolling social media, consuming distractions, then complain they don't have time to read or learn. Jews take the opposite approach. They willingly sacrifice short-term pleasures to devote time to knowledge and personal growth. They know that investing in wisdom pays dividends for a lifetime. Even more, they don't just manage time for work, but also for meaning. Jews set aside the Sabbath, a sacred day of rest, to pause, reflect, and reconnect with family and community. They know time is not only for making money, but for nurturing the soul and the heart. That too is an investment in balance and lasting happiness. If money is a tangible asset, time is the invisible asset that ultimately determines your career, your relationships, and your destiny. Money lost can be regained, but a single day gone is gone forever. That's why Jews constantly ask themselves, am I using this moment to create value, or am I letting it vanish into nothingness? The lesson is crystal clear. Begin treating your time as precious capital. Invest it wisely in learning, in productive work, in positive relationships, and in meaningful experiences. When you master both money and time, you hold in your hands the two most powerful assets for building lasting prosperity. Jews believe the one who knows how to use time well is already wealthy, even if they don't yet hold riches in their pocket. Because true wealth doesn't begin with money. It begins with how you spend the hours, the days, and the years of your life. Part 13. Principle. Passing down knowledge and values to the next generation. The greatest legacy is not money, but wisdom. Here's a truth many people don't want to face. Wealth can vanish overnight, but wisdom and values can sustain an entire people for thousands of years. The Jewish people are living proof of this. Though they were exiled, robbed, stripped of property, they never lost what mattered most: the treasury of knowledge and the value system passed from generation to generation. From within the family, Jews have always placed education above everything else. To them, a book may be more valuable than a handful of gold. Gold can be taken, but the knowledge instilled in their children can never be stolen. Even in poor, scattered communities, they prioritized building schools and synagogues before building luxurious homes. They believed only knowledge could protect them against life's upheavals. A story often retold is this. During migrations, Jews were forced to leave with nothing but the clothes on their backs. Yet parents still taught their children to memorize the Torah, to learn mathematics, commerce, and life philosophy. Those children, once grown, rebuilt their communities, started businesses from scratch, and restored prosperity. If parents had left only money, it would have been lost along the journey. But because they left wisdom, the children could create wealth anew, greater, stronger, and more enduring. This is why in Jewish families, the dining table is often the most important classroom. Meals are not only for filling the stomach, but for parents to tell stories of their history, share life principles, and instill pride in their children's identity. Jewish kids grow up in this atmosphere, absorbing responsibility, frugality, and an unquenchable thirst for learning. That invisible inheritance becomes their strongest, most lasting legacy. Passing down knowledge and values not only helps individuals thrive, but also prevents a community from disintegrating. For thousands of years in exile, Jews preserved their unity and identity because they instilled in the next generation unshakable principles: love of knowledge, devotion to family, protection of community, and pursuit of freedom. Even today, many families around the world make the mistake of thinking that leaving behind wealth alone is the greatest gift. But without the wisdom to manage it, the next generation can squander it easily. Jews think differently. They don't hand money over unconditionally. They hand down tools, mindsets, and values so their children know how to create and preserve wealth on their own. The lesson is clear. True legacy is not what you leave in a vault, but what you plant in the minds and hearts of those who follow. When you pass on discipline, knowledge, ethics, and belief, you are giving a form of wealth that never depreciates. And through that, the prosperity of your family and community endures. The Jewish saying goes, when you teach a child, you don't just change one life, you change the world. That is why knowledge and values remain their greatest inheritance, far beyond gold, silver, or material riches. Part 14, Principle. Adapt flexibly when necessary. Be steadfast but not stubborn, daring to change course. One of the secrets behind Jewish survival over thousands of years is their ability to adapt. They remain unwavering in their core values: knowledge, discipline, and faith, but they are incredibly flexible in the ways they live and create wealth. Just look at history. The Jewish people have lived in many lands, from the Middle East to Europe, then across the globe. Each place had its own culture, its own laws, and its own economic environment. If they had been rigid, clinging blindly to their old ways, they would not have survived. Instead, by being flexible, they transformed from agriculture to trade, from trade to finance, from finance to technology, and they continue to adapt in today's modern world. The remarkable point is this: they don't change in a way that loses their identity. They change in order to adapt, to grow, while still holding onto their core essence. They are like water, soft, flexible, yet powerful enough to carve through stone and keep flowing endlessly. In business, flexibility is a survival skill. Many entrepreneurs fail not because they lack intelligence, but because they stubbornly stick to outdated paths. Jews understand this well. Markets change, technology changes, consumer needs change, and if you can't pivot in time, you'll be left behind. That's why they always know when to cut losses, when to change direction, and when to explore new opportunities. There's a philosophy they often teach their children: be steadfast with your goals, but flexible with your methods. In other words, never change your dream of freedom and prosperity, but be willing to change strategies to get there. The exact route doesn't matter as much as the fact that you keep moving forward. In personal life, flexibility is just as vital. Knowing when to stand firm, when to yield, and when to shift course. That's the wisdom that helps people overcome crises. Jews have been forced countless times to leave behind homes and possessions in search of a new land. Yet it was precisely this flexibility that allowed them not just to survive, but to thrive stronger than before. The greatest lesson here is this: flexibility is not weakness. It's a form of intelligent strength. The rigid tree snaps in the storm, but the flexible one bends and then rises again, even taller. So remember, hold fast to your faith, hold fast to your core values, but always allow yourself to pivot when circumstances demand it. Those who adapt are the ones who endure and rise in a world that never stops changing. Part 15, Principle. Harness the power of technology and innovation. New tools create new financial opportunities. Centuries ago, wisdom and negotiation skills helped the Jewish people rise in the world of finance. But today, the key to unlocking doors of wealth is technology and innovation. They understand one truth. When tools change, the rules of the game change, and whoever masters the new tools becomes the leader. Take Israel as an example, a small, dry nation with very few natural resources. Yet through a relentless drive for innovation, it transformed itself into the startup nation, home to thousands of pioneering tech companies. From smart agriculture to medicine, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, and beyond, they've not only created breakthrough inventions, but also turned those ideas into massive financial leverage. This isn't coincidence. It's the result of a mindset, always seeing opportunity in the new tools of the age. Jews don't just use technology to make money. They use it to manage money, protect money, and multiply money. They leverage digital platforms, global markets, data, and information to make sharper decisions. To them, technology isn't just a tool. It's a lever that expands vision and accelerates wealth creation. The lesson for us is simple. Don't fear innovation. Many people fail because they cling too tightly to the old, stay too safe in their comfort zone, and miss the opportunities that new tools bring. Jews are different. They're willing to try, willing to learn, and willing to adapt, as long as it creates long-term value. We live in an era exploding with AI, blockchain, fintech, e-commerce, and countless other tools. This is the perfect moment for anyone with the right mindset to harness technology and upgrade their financial life. Use it to learn faster, to manage money smarter, to connect with global opportunities, and to turn ideas into real cash flow. The Jewish teaching is clear. A tool only has value in the hands of someone who knows how to use it. Technology is no different. It can propel you forward, but only if you're willing to study it, apply it, and see the hidden potential inside it. The world never stops changing, and technology is the great wave of our time. The wise don't stand still and let the waves sweep them away. They ride it to go farther. If you learn to catch it, every new tool can become a new opportunity. And from that opportunity, you can turn your financial dreams into reality. Part 16, Principle. Always remain humble before money. Money is a tool, not a measure of human value. There's a truth few people realize. Many, after achieving financial success, end up losing themselves. They let money become the center of their ego, treating it as the measure of human worth. The Jewish people have long understood this is the most dangerous trap of all, because once you let money dominate your mind, you become its slave. The Jews teach their children, money is a good servant, but a bad master. In other words, money can be used as a means, a tool to serve life's purpose, to build value, and to contribute to the community. But if you treat money as everything, you will lose the very freedom you were chasing. Throughout history, many Jewish communities became wealthy, yet they continued to live simply, preserve their traditions, study, and cultivate wisdom as usual. They understood that material wealth is only an outer shell. Intelligence, character, and contribution are what have kept them standing strong for centuries. Money can be lost overnight, but human value cannot be stolen. Remaining humble before money doesn't mean rejecting or denying its importance. On the contrary, it is a clear-headed attitude, knowing that money is a tool, not the ultimate goal. With money, you gain more choices, more freedom, but money itself does not make you respectable. Only how you earn it, how you use it, and how you share value with others creates that respect. The Jews also remind us, never flaunt wealth. The more you show off, the more vulnerable you become. But those who stay humble, who use their assets discreetly and wisely, are the ones who can accumulate wealth sustainably. True wealth is being rich in mindset, knowledge, and way of living, not in flashy possessions. In today's society, many young people get swept into the race of proving wealth. But the truth is, wealth isn't in the car you drive, the house you own, or the watch on your wrist. Wealth is being able to live freely, to help others, and to keep your mind at peace despite financial ups and downs. Humility before money doesn't make you poorer. On the contrary, it makes you richer in a lasting way, because you're no longer controlled by greed or illusion. You master money instead of letting money master you. And that is the true pinnacle of financial wisdom. Part 17, Principle. Build a long-term mindset. Think not just about today, but about 10 to 20 years ahead. One of the secrets that has allowed the Jewish people to stand strong in a turbulent world is their ability to look far ahead. They don't just think about a day or even a year. They think for a whole generation, sometimes several generations. That's why, even in the face of crisis, they have a solid foundation to rebuild and thrive. The Jews understand that true wealth building is not a sprint, it's a marathon. They teach their children to save from the smallest amounts of money, not to see instant results, but to build a financial foundation for 10 to 20 years down the road. They encourage investing in education, knowing that the knowledge of today will become tomorrow's priceless asset. This long-term mindset also shows up in how they run businesses. They don't chase profit at all costs in the short term. They focus on building brand, reputation, and lasting value. They are willing to sacrifice some immediate profit to secure stable growth for the future. That's why so many Jewish-founded companies have endured and thrived for generations. There's a principle they often repeat. Don't plant seeds just for one season's harvest. Plant trees so your children can enjoy the fruit. This means every financial decision today must be weighed not just in the context of now, but also in the vision of the future. In life, a long-term mindset also helps people stay calm. When you know your journey spans 20 years, you won't panic over temporary setbacks. Losing one round doesn't mean losing the whole game. The Jewish people are patient because they know real success requires time, and that haste often leads to mistakes. This is especially important today in a world where so many want quick results. Quick money, quick wealth, instant success. But the Jews choose the opposite path, the path of patience, persistence, and building solid foundations for the future. And it is precisely this patience that has allowed them to go farther than anyone else. The lesson here is clear. Don't just ask, how much did I make today? Instead, ask, where will I be 20 years from now because of what I'm doing today? When you dare to think long-term, you will dare to invest in things that hold lasting value. And when you do, success won't just come to you. It will extend to the generations after you. Looking back at all the principles that Jewish people have consistently applied for centuries, we can see one profound truth. Wealth and prosperity have never been the result of luck or random opportunities. They're the fruit of a disciplined mindset, a resilient outlook, and a series of intentional, intelligent actions. They don't let money control their lives. They use it as a tool to expand knowledge, build community, invest in the future, and protect their core values. They understand that true wealth is not about showing off. It's about freedom, resilience, and the ability to pass wisdom on to the next generation. What's most remarkable is that each principle, though seemingly simple, is deeply practical. From saving, managing risk, investing, and diversifying, to living with discipline, humility, adaptability, and long-term vision. Every element connects to form a strong financial mindset. Thanks to this, no matter where they are or what challenges they face, Jewish communities have been able to rise, recover from crises, and sustain prosperity. The takeaway for us is this. To change your financial life, you don't necessarily have to change your circumstances right away. What must change first is your mindset. When you see money as a tool instead of a destination, when you think long-term instead of short-term, when you're disciplined and consistent yet flexible in the face of uncertainty, you've already laid the foundation for true wealth. And more importantly, that wealth won't just stop with you. It can become a legacy for future generations. The greatest lesson is this. The most important asset you can ever build is not money, but mindset and discipline. When you train yourself to think rightly about money, the way you earn it, keep it, and multiply it will transform. Start small. Save a portion of your income. Dedicate time to learning every day. Focus on creating value instead of only chasing profit, and dare to think long-term. Over time, you'll see that this shift in mindset will open doors you never even knew existed. Now let me ask you, among all the principles just shared, which one do you believe is the most important for starting to change your financial life today? Leave your answer in the comments below so we can all learn and discuss together. And don't forget to subscribe to RICHMIND HACK to support us in creating more valuable, insightful, and inspiring content in the next videos. Thank you for listening.